Yeah, I'm good with it. Let's see. Let me see. Let me pull it up. How about there?
Okay, that's wonderful. All right, as you
That's
know,
good, right?
October,
That's
yes, that's wonderful. Okay, so as you know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we at Ladies in Waiting International Wives are highlighting courageous women such as yourself and their stories of triumph and survival with our The Heart of the Matter series. And this is episode 3, and we are bringing in Victoria, who is an expert in her field of counseling and special education. She received her master's degree from New York University in clinical studies law. Her life's work has always and always will be centered around helping those in situations they may find themselves in with the care that they need. So, and I can say for firsthand that Victoria has always been outstanding in her field. We are so excited that she's here with us today because, as you can see, she's working in the field and she took out time of her day so that she could share her story with us. Now, Victoria, I know that you have been actively helping women who are in these situations, actively helping them to come out of situations and their families. How then did you find yourself in a situation that was startling, I'm sure, and devastating? How did you find yourself there? Give us a little bit about your story.
I found myself in this situation by accident. I got married, and we don't get married thinking that the person that we're marrying is going to hurt us. We're thinking they're going to protect us and guide us and take care of us. Um, but that wasn't the case from the very start. The first indication of a severe kind of indication that there's going to be some more happening in the marriage was right after we got married, like right after. And so it was a pretty dark moment. Um, Even early on, I noticed that he had some kind of anger issues, you know,
Mhm.
yelling, getting frustrated, not being able to handle his own stress
Mhm.
in his own stressful situations. And I thought to myself, like everyone else thinks, oh, I can handle this. It's just nervousness, maybe because of relationship,
Mhm.
blending at an older age, because I was like 37. I'm 57 years old now. Um, yeah, so you try to think of all the positive things. You try to roll into your faith. Your faith will help you.
Yes.
Um,
So you
but
you
those
do.
things,
I'm sorry. You do see that there was some escalation as you were coming in, because some people say, "Oh, it was just out of left field. I did not expect it, and blam, there it just happened, and I was shocked." Some people say that it started off with verbal and it just kind of escalated up to, and some people say that um, it never got too physical, but it was, just the verbal, emotional, and mental. So, how was that escalation for you? Was there an escalation or was it just bloom and it was
it
just
was
there?
an escalation because there were a lot of gifts in the beginning, a lot of happiness, a lot of fun, a lot of traveling, a lot of just being together, and it's great, talking for all hours of the night on the phone.
Yes.
Yeah, but when something wasn't like correct, like for him, like if he got sideswiped by something he didn't like to hear or something, he got really angry.
Mhm. So, do you find that most of these situations, because you've dealt with other women as well as your own situation, do you find that most of these situations are an inability for the person to deal with their own anger and stress? Is that a major thing that you see? Inability to deal with anger and stress.
I think that is. I think that everyone comes in to a relationship with their abilities, and they do have a cap point if they're not growing. And so if a person doesn't work on their own individual um, self control,
Mhm.
and find ways to uh, alleviate stress, well, then you're going to become their way to release stress.
Now that is
And
really awesome things, I mean, to bring out, because I think that a lot of times we don't understand that piece, you are it. You know what I'm saying? You're the one,
They're the
that
one.
they love,
Hmm.
and the one that is at home with them, and the one that, they think will not run off and, expose them or whatever. So you become the punching bag, or the vitrolic verbal abuse dump, where they can just go off and say all these negative things to you. How were you able to cope? Because I know you had children. So how were you able to kind of shield your children, or did you have a lot of concerns about what they may be hearing and seeing?
Well, early on, I was always in activities with the children. We had a lot of private in places that we went, private clubs and things like that. So the children were really sort of isolated from it
Hmm.
because, like, he would begin to do certain things when they were going to bed.
Okay.
And, their rooms were, upstairs. And so it was pretty, they were pretty covered. And yes, I did have concerns, but it wasn't towards them, and it wasn't really in front of them um, early on. But when they started to get older, I some things started to happen that I did not like, and then that's just where it just no, it wasn't going to
Yes.
work.
So
Even
being
in the very beginning, actually, let me just speak about
okay.
when we first got married, and then I had our first child. I did seek out someone. Be- no, we didn't have our child yet. We were only married for a week. So I did seek out a pastor that I knew and that knew him, and I shared with him what had occurred. And he actually went to this gentleman and said to him, "Well, no, this isn't going to happen, and you have to leave the house. You have to leave the
Mm,
marital home." And so he did. He came with other men, and they, helped him get his things together, and he left, and they made him stay out for 3 months.
oh wow.
He
Wow.
did. They did. And then, yeah, and
Well,
they
that
worked with him, but he came back, but nothing really changed. So he
oh
was more
wow.
angry than when he left. And so, I
That
don't know. I just, like I said, I think what it is that every individual needs to learn how to manage their own stress and
yes.
have self control. And if they
And
don't have personal self control, they need to get the tools to help them to learn to have some.
yes, and I think that that is very important, because as mothers raising daughters, raising sons, are we teaching our kids to control themselves? This this whole
Mm.
thing of people feeling that they have the right to control other people when they cannot control themselves. And that is actually the gift you are given, is to be able to control you. So when I'm looking at it, I always, think, as parents, we want to instill into our kids how to control them, because you don't have the right to control someone else. And I think the frustration comes in a lot of times when people really feel, you know, like, I want you to do this, and I want you to do it every time I ask you, not just when you want to do it. And I'm going to make you do that, is an attempt to control someone else's choice. And we don't have,
Exactly.
so
Right.
I this is very good stuff, because a lot of times we skirt over that piece. That is so important, that you understand that self-control would answer a lot of this issue. And I'm also very encouraged that you actually had a pastor that stepped in and said, okay, you're not doing this, this is going to come out, and we're going to work with him to the side, because that is another issue. Women will go in, they'll tell someone, that they're trusted.
Mhm.
They will just, in a church, a lot of times they won't even tell somebody, the church person, because they don't trust them with the information. But as you said, they go out, they get the person, they work with the person, but then they come back even angrier because you told somebody about them. So now I think that as churches and as people that are helping other people, we need to know how to work through those layers, because you can't just dump them off and go on your merry way, because there's still residuals going on there. So I assume you saw a lot of that after he came back, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And then just moving forward, let's just fast forward, and the divorce happened, and you know I I am really whole
Amen.
after. I came through a storm, and it was really rocky. It was sort of black days,
Hmm.
but I do not have any animosity towards him. I don't feel any anger when he calls me because we have children. And who does he call when he has surgeries or he's sick or he falls off of, somewhere or whatever? He calls me, "Can you help me?" And of course, I will go help because he's my children's father.
Yes. Yes. So
Nothing
tell
more
me
than that.
how you work
Humanity, because,
through getting to your wholeness. Tell us a little bit of how you got to your wholeness.
well, I grabbed onto all of my close sisters in Christ, close friends, and shared my story over and over and over again. And what happens when you share your story over and over and over again, and your close friends are willing to listen to it, even
Yes.
though they were there in it, is that it's almost like you can go into a mirror and tell the story to yourself too, over
Yes.
and over and over again. And then after you tell it, when you get to that point, you're listening to yourself say your story and you're saying, "This just sounds crazy." And something grows inside of you and overshadows all the pain, all the suffering, all of the emotional upset, and you're
Hmm.
saying the last word to a friend, and all of a sudden you say to yourself, and sometimes you might even say it out loud, some people, you say, "I'm so over this.
Yes.
I don't feel anything anymore."
Yes.
And that's when you're healed. If you can tell the story without a tear, without anger, without frustration, sometimes with laughter because it's over,
Yes.
then you're healed. And that's how I handled it. I mean, I just grabbed onto it. Not many people, like a very
Hmm.
less than five,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and yeah, and then of course, you take care of your physical person, going to the gym, losing the weight that you might have gained or gaining weight that you might have lost, and
Yes. Yes.
just doing
Yes.
activities, going to work, focusing on what you need to do, being organized, all of those things. Yeah,
Yes. So did you
vacation a
find that
little. Yeah.
your professional knowledge, did that help you, or did you just rely on, you know, what everyone else does, on what you said, like just going through the things that you need to, rehearsing it to your friends? Is that something that you would encourage other women to do in order to move past the pain of it, is to talk about it, to work through it that way?
Absolutely. And I think that a person cannot help another person unless they have a relationship. Even if you go into a clinical setting where you don't know the clinician, the psychologist, the social worker, whoever you choose to go to, you need to build a relationship first. You can't just, there's such um, a misunderstanding where people think they just go into a counseling venue and they think that right away they're just going to share their story. But what has to happen is that you have to learn about that person. I'm a professional. I'm just sharing from a professional perspective.
Yes.
When you go into a counseling session, a person should not be so quick to just tell their whole story without learning a little bit about that person they're speaking to,
Okay.
because in speaking to that person and creating a professional relationship, you will learn first if this person can even help you by
Mm,
listening to what they say.
yes.
Because
Yes.
you might just be sitting there for 2 and 3 and 7 and 10, and I've worked with people who were with certain psychologists for years and years and years, 25 years, some people, and never were healed.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that is really important. I am so glad you brought that up because we do say to people, "Oh, you need to go and get therapy." But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think I went through about 4 or 5 people before I came to a therapist that I felt could actually connect with me and understand where I was coming from and what I was going
Mhm.
through and how I could move through that to safety. That's so key, and I really appreciate you sharing that because we are saying to these women, you need to get some therapy. You should go get some help. And you're right. Every therapist cannot help you. So it is really good to find that out. And that is so key. And I'm so thankful that you brought that up because that is really important. So I want to ask you, do you trust? How are you able to trust again? I always say that because, that's something that I am still working through. And I always like to hear
Mhm.
how other people are moving through that trust issue, for other relationships. Are you able to trust again?
Um, I'm not in a place where I want to get into a relationship, but if you look at society as a whole, there's a whole lot of things going on with a lot of people.
Yes.
And the main thing that I see in friends and acquaintances and coworkers is that there's such a facade that people put up. So
Mhm.
you really never know who you're meeting. And so I'm not in a place where I want to give someone trust. I would have to probably meet someone through someone that someone knew.
Yeah.
This way
Mhm.
I would know who that person is, like who their family is and what their family does, and because I think that gives credibility to somebody.
Mm.
If a family member, close friend, you know, um, introduce you to someone and say, this, that, and the other thing, and whatever, um, and they've never seen certain things happening, I think you might have a better chance than just cold turkey out there, just
Yeah.
finding
Yeah.
someone that you don't know from anywhere. No one has ever heard of the person.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, I could probably trust someone, but I'm just not in that space.
Okay,
I'm
but
just
I'm
not
I'm
wanting
glad
that.
that you're saying that you are able to trust someone, even though you're
Yes,
not in that space. I'm
yes,
not
yes.
sure I can say that just yet. I think I'm very I'm a little skeptical about people nowadays, a lot more than I was, back when. So that's why I always ask that
Like,
question because I want to see where people are and how they are working towards that and how they got to the place where they could trust people again, on any level of relationship, like even to allow someone to get to know you again, as well as you getting to know them. I don't
right.
even know that I'm there. So okay, so that's why I was asking that. And so going back to going through the situations that were happening, a lot of women are saying, that I'm talking to now. I get a lot more women that I'm talking to now because of COVID. They're stuck in the house with their abusers. Um, One of the questions that or one of the statements that they make is that the verbal abuse is far worse than the physical abuse and their and the way that they feel about it. So what do you say to this verbal abuse situation? I'm sure that might have been something you had to deal with, and I know that you're whole, you're healed, you're past it. How did you get past all of that, verbal dump that happens when you're in a close situation with someone who's abusive?
You have to really, when someone is degrading you verbally, you have to really try to leave at that moment. Go
Mhm.
to the food store, go to CVS, go to Walgreens. Just, listen for a mom say, I really need to get something at ShopRite.
Yeah. So you don't
So
sit
just
there.
remove yourself from the situation. You don't sit there and take it. You
Yeah.
wait till there's a break, like there's a little lull of the words, like maybe they'll just lose their energy for a minute
Mhm.
thinking about the next bad thing they're going to say.
Yes.
And then in that lull, you just say, I just remembered that, I hear what you're saying. I just remembered that I have to go to ShopRite
Mm,
and I have to get some things for tomorrow for the kids or tomorrow for our lunches or whatever. But definitely, you have to remove yourself. You have to just get your keys, always actually have your keys on you somewhere close. Get your
yes.
keys, grab the kids if the kids are, there, and just go to the store. If not, if the kids feel comfortable staying, let them stay. But just go and get a little break. And then generally, when you come back, it's sort of like gone for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have a normal moment where maybe you're out to dinner with your partner, maybe walking somewhere with the dog or just taking a walk in general, when it's a quiet time out of the house, because there's
Mm-hmm.
something about talking about situations
In the
inside the
house.
house.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just never works.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. You have to talk outside where there's other people. And then you would say something like, um, I was wondering, I was just thinking about how we're communicating, and I just thought maybe we can come to terms with some kind of ground rules when we're trying to communicate with one another.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then your partner might say, "What do you mean?" Something, and you say, "Well, I just think that if maybe if we use kinder words
Yeah.
towards
Yeah.
one another and we
That
didn't,
would be nice.
and always say we.
We.
If you
Yeah.
say we, you're not attacking the person. It's like if
Mm-hmm.
we say kind words and maybe if we can find a better way to first maybe encourage one another and then talk about the things that we would like to change or things that we're upset about.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I think that removing oneself, absolutely go to the store because you can always go to the store,
Yeah.
and then to talk about the bad mouthing and how you communicate outside always
Yes.
at dinner or a walk, something. Create some kind of a calm atmosphere where you can speak about these things in front of other people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I think that this is really good stuff because again, the lull. I like that you brought that up, that when there's space, in a break in the verbal onslaught, you get up and you go someplace else to break up. It's sort of like breaking up the atmosphere that's been created, and that's very, very good. And then leaving and coming back with he will hopefully have a different perspective at that point, so will
he
you.
or she,
Yeah, he
he
or
or
she, yeah,
she,
whichever one
because
is
there's some
delivering.
cheese that are, yeah,
Yes,
some
yes.
cheese that are doing worse things too. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. We just happen to be talking to mostly women because our organization services women, but we do recognize that there are men that are under the same sort of
mhm, mhm,
onslaught of attack that women are as well, but they tend to not report it as much because of the same reasons we don't report it: shame, embarrassment, to be
right,
able to say
right,
that they're
right.
being abused. So that's another good point to have brought up. I really like that part about the law. I just glad that you brought that up. I just want to reiterate that to women, and also we being inclusive when you're talking about it so that you're not attacking the other person. That's just really good stuff. And I can remember myself doing that all the time now that I look back. Yeah, that was the way that you keep yourself from getting escalating the situation to make it even
Right,
worse than what
right.
it is. So that is really
Exactly.
awesome. I thank you so much for bringing that up. So, okay, what kind of words of encouragement do you have or advice to women who are in the midst of a, uh, abusive situation that may be both physical and verbal, and emotional and psychological? What do you say to them about where they are? And, because let me just say this. A lot of times when we're talking, people say to me, oh, the only solution you ever have is that, they have to leave their home. Okay, well, that is not the only solution that we have. We would like you to try all of the other solutions first, but if you're gonna, if you need to get to safety, we would like you to be able to do so without dying. So, what kind of advice can you give women who are in this situation right now? They're being, beat, they're being verbally abused, they're being, psychologically abused and emotionally abused. What kind of advice can you give them right now and words of hope?
Well, first, I would like to say that if behavior was predictable, we would all be okay.
I love that.
If behavior was predictable, we'd
I
all
love.
be okay and we would all be counselors and be very rich.
Yeah.
You would almost be clairvoyant. You would be
Yes.
clairvoyant in
Yes.
your craft.
Wow.
And so
That's really good.
what why I'm saying this is because, well, let me just say first, I think that getting close friends to become close to your partner, inviting them to your home more often, if you're a woman or of faith, having your pastor even pass through every now and then, or a pastor that you trust, or a clergy person, try not to keep yourself in isolation, and that's what they usually want you to do. So, have dinners, have fellowships, have little since it's COVID, little 6 foot, you know, sit outs on your front lawn,
Hmm.
in your back lawn, but wrap around that person who is angry
Hmm.
and see what happens. Because
Okay.
love always wins. It
Yes.
does always win. But sometimes we don't have enough friends or enough people in our own lives
Hmm.
to wrap around that person because we're afraid of their reaction. But
Yeah.
what I find in from counseling women and families is that when you wrap around a family, it does something to that partner who's angry.
Wow. I like
It
that.
breaks something in them that's it not breaks it, it I guess it mends it really,
Okay.
because they're so broken. They
Yes.
are broken. They're
Hmm.
so broken that they're just out of control.
Hmm.
And what I find is that heals that is love really.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll think, oh, people can think, oh, it's me. It's me.
Hmm.
But years going down the road later, you'll see that that person will still have some of those behaviors because they're still broken.
Mm.
They've healed in areas and they're able to speak to you and behave and at certain times, but bring some stress on and they're going to
Yeah.
be the same person. But
Wow.
my encouragement is wrap around that person with love from your friends,
Hmm.
from the people that you are most connected to. Don't pull away from him and go to your friends. Bring your friends home.
Mm.
You see, when I look back in mind's eye, I went to my friends.
Hmm.
I
And
never really, I don't know what it was. I didn't, and maybe your friends will say, I don't want to be around him and this and that. But there has to be a conversation of, but you love me and I want to help this person because I love them, you
yes.
know?
Yes.
So I think that coming out of isolation, wrapping your partner around with your friends and people that love you, because if they're willing to love you, they can love him.
Oh,
They can love him.
that is
They
so
can.
awesome to hear. And, I can kind of see that, at different times when the person was around
Yeah.
people, they were less volatile, they were less angry, they were less, uh,
Mhm.
likely to have a major blowout or episode. And that is so key. And these are things, again, that churches and friends need to know so that we know how to help each other through these situations. I mean, we're raising awareness because of this, because we didn't know how to um,
Mm-mm.
how to navigate through that situation. Like,
Mhm.
I had never seen anger like this before. I'd never seen anybody,
Mm.
that must have this level of control over someone else. I had never encountered this before, didn't really know what I was looking at. So we need to raise awareness for this very reason, because those people are people too. They are people. They do need love, just like the rest of us
Yes,
need love.
they
And
do.
even though,
And more
we're not,
so. Mhm.
I'm sorry.
And more so.
Yeah. Yeah, and even though we're not trying to say you sit there and get yourself beat down, no, I
No,
like
no.
all of the points that you brought up to show you how to safeguard yourself against being constantly beat down, but at the same time, giving you tools if you're in the situation of how to work through it while you're there, because that has been very key. That has always been the problem. You don't know how to not
Mhm.
isolate because you don't really want them to blow up in front of everybody, but they really don't blow up in front of everybody all the time.
Mm-mm.
They do uh, uh,
Mhm.
absorb and want the love that your friends bring and that you bring. They do want all of that. So, and maybe they don't know how to ask for it, or they don't know how to reach out for it properly. But one of the other things I wanted to go back to is, so then again, us parents, we're called upon, to try to make sure that our sons and our daughters understand this stuff. So where do you think we need to start with educating? I mean, do you see it? Because I know you work with child study teams, you do all these things with younger to older kids and with older adults. Do you see this starting to be a problem? Can you see that problem as a young child? Can you see the need to control the verbal abusive behavior? Can you see it that young? Like, school age?
You can see it that young because children are imitators of their environment,
Mm,
and parents don't want to. Parents don't want to admit that. But I remember one time, and I will share this. I mean, I'm going to share it. When my own child was, I believe he was 5, and they were in the playground at a Christian school,
okay.
and all the girls were playing and everything, and they were having fun, and out of nowhere he just said, "All of you girls are bitchesses."
Wow. You almost passed out, I'm sure. Oh boy.
Well, no, I didn't. The teacher called me, and the teacher said, "Well, your son just said all you girls are, you know." And she said, "That's not acceptable." And I said, "Well," I said, "what do we know as educators?" She said, "Well, I know that children will imitate what their parents do." And I said, "Well, why are you shocked then?"
Oh wow.
Because you know that, I had spoken to her, and so he was just saying what his father had said
Yeah.
the night before.
Oh
So
boy.
yeah, so
Whew.
yeah, if you don't get put a hand, and I explained, and then too, even what they watch.
Yeah.
We like to watch My Fair Lady, but in My Fair Lady, there's one word they use. I think it's damn, right?
Okay.
Damn it, the lady. He says it
Now
constantly.
I'm gonna go back and watch it. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, he constantly says that word. So what did the children say? That word, because they watched that movie. It's a beautiful musical,
Mm-hmm.
but that word,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there it is. So there it is. Children imitate what's happening in their environment. And so
Okay.
what they see, what comes through the eyes goes inside the
Mm-hmm.
body, and then it's translated in the brain. So, and it comes out of the mouth. So, you
Yes.
know, no, I got a handle on that. I'm a woman of faith, so I use
Mm-hmm.
the Bible, the Word of God, and so, we were able to handle that. Like,
Yes.
okay, Daddy is saying that, but that's not how we speak, because
Mm-hmm.
that's not kind and loving. Those words are not kind and loving, and they're not caring, and you're hurting people when you say that. Do you want people to hurt you with words? And we went through that whole thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so we worked through that. So yeah,
So is
it
that
is seen in
implemented?
children.
Okay, so is that type of um evaluation and then encouragement and talking to the child, is that implemented in the school systems, do you think, or is it too much to expect from, the educators to have to also monitor and say, oh my God, this is not the way that you want to speak to each other because blah, 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 blah. Because we know that these, when we see it that young, it's gonna, if it's not corrected, it will play out later on. And that's why we always
Well,
say,
we do. We do have programs, and they've always existed. There are always social workers and counselors. And now, too, school systems, especially public, private is a little different, but public, absolutely 100%. They do have curriculum now that
okay.
teaches social skills.
Oh,
And
excellent.
part of the way you speak and the part of the way you treat someone, it's a social skill. And so
Hmm.
you're not, if you're in an abusive home, um, and there isn't someone who knows anything about social skills, uh, it is being taught at school.
Okay.
In the private schools, they're sort of moving more towards a clinical setting where actually, some of the schools have a mini hospital on site.
Oh, wow.
So they go clinical first without dealing with the social skills. So there's a
Mm,
little bit of a weakness there, I see.
okay.
But at least they're trying to do something to help the kids. So yes, yes.
I
Hmm.
find that
There's
to be
actually,
so encouraging that they are acknowledging
mhm.
that it's starting a lot younger and then it trickles down to adulthood, and that is very encouraging. uh, I'm like really happy to hear that. So the programs that are in place now, you said there's always been social workers or whatnot, but are parents taking advantage of those opportunities, or are they just already in the curriculum so we don't have to worry about whether a parent is all right with their child being in the situation?
Well,
Like, is it
at
already
this
in the
late hour
curriculum?
in COVID,
I'm sorry.
at this late hour in COVID-19, it
Mm.
is now in the curriculum.
Oh, okay.
Before COVID-19, any child who was showing any kind of, like, they're throwing their desk at the teacher, they're spitting on the teacher, they're hitting the teacher, they're cursing at the teacher, they're running around the hallways, banging on lockers and stuff. Those children were always brought to counseling because, like, in the beginning of the year, the parents do sign on, with the
Hmm.
school saying that if there is a need be, can your child go to counseling? And,
Okay.
everybody signs, of course, yes. So
Okay.
that's what happens. Yeah, they'll just go right to counseling or to security, and everyone helps. It's a team effort. Sometimes the child will like the social worker, sometimes the child will like the guidance counselor, sometimes the child will like the security guard, the nurse, even the lunchroom person,
Yes.
uh, the hall monitor, I mean the
Hmm.
janitor,
Yes.
whoever, is the person that can connect with the child, that's who will connect with that child, and
Oh,
which I
that's,
think is pretty cool. It's pretty
yeah,
neat. It's
that's
very
wonderful.
nice for the children.
Yes, I agree totally. And I'm so glad that you shared that information too, because, we don't know if, some of the stuff that you're teaching at home, you're trying to reinforce in your child. You want to make sure that they understand how to interact socially. If they do not do what they're supposed to do in school, it's good to know that there are avenues and different ways of dealing with them to help them to get these social skills, because we want domestic violence to go away. And I know that
We
we
do.
have to get to the root of the problem. That's why this is called the heart of the matter. We need to find out where it's starting from, and then try to deal with it from the inside out, because we know that a person just doesn't wake up today and say, oh, I'm going to just beat my wife. There's other things
No.
going on,
Right.
and we're not all psychologists, as you say. We're not professional psychologists and whatnot, and we need to know what we're dealing with and how we can help these people. So this is very awesome. I appreciate you bringing all of these wonderful points up, and I am so thankful that you got to a place from uh, a dark place to a light place, and that you're now in what you call how did you say, wholeness. I like that. You're now a whole person. You don't feel that a part of you is being diminished, but you're able to be all of who God's called you to be. So that's an awesome thing. And
Yes.
we who are
Yes.
coming out of these situations, every now and then something will come up and I'll be like, oh boy, I thought I dealt with that. and I may have to go over it again and to maybe bring a different angle to how I look at it. I didn't realize that that was still an issue, or that I even had I didn't even know that was there. Do you have any of those moments where there's something that you thought was, you no longer were concerned about, now they're coming up? Because once in a while I do have those times when I think, why did I feel like that about that? Like, why did I feel about that way about that? And then I'll deal with it, in prayer, and then, in meditation, and then, and in therapy if need be, depending on how deep it is what came up. So do you have any of those types of things that happen? And if so, how do you deal with that?
I can honestly say I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
I have left that, behind me, but I can say that I can recognize a
Mhm.
person that would like to try to pull things from the grave.
Okay.
Um, there was one gentleman that was working on my bicycle because I needed it, a rehaul for my bicycle to start the season in the summer. And then he wanted to go out to dinner. I don't know how dinner came from the left field. We were just talking about my bicycle needing like an overhaul, and then all of a sudden he says, "Oh, let's go out to dinner and this and that." And then so we were just talking, and as in the shop, the conversation went on, and all of a sudden he's like, "I don't know why you're so guarded. I don't know why this and that and the other thing." And
Mm.
I just looked at him and I said, "I have known you for a whole 2 minutes, if three." And I said, "It's not even, I don't know what you're looking for, but none of that is here."
Mhm. Mhm.
um, I'm not sure if a bicycle man is a therapist. I said, "So," I said, it's so nice that you can help my bicycle.
Yeah.
So let's go back to what we're gonna do to my bicycle."
Yes. Very
Yeah,
touche.
because like people are looking, they're looking for like, they want to find something dark. And
Mhm.
I'll tell you, if someone is able to find something dark that you have not worked through, I can guarantee you 100% that person is going to begin to abuse you.
Wow. That
They are
is
going to grab onto, this person has been abused before, so she's used to it. So I know I can get in here and do it too.
wow.
It might be lateness, it might be subconscious, but yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Well, that is a real good nugget. I hope you women out here hear that, be very careful with
Mhm.
that. Yeah, because everybody is at different stages of recovery. So we need to make sure that we
Mhm.
are
Mhm.
totally whole before we, enter into any other situations or any other relationships, especially if you have children. Just be very careful, ladies out there, because um, as
Mhm.
Victoria said, the predators are there. And it's very difficult to believe that people are on the lookout for people who've been hurt, so that they can come in and they
Mhm.
can, they can pick up where someone else left off. That's just like terrible, to even have to think of, but, the
Mhm.
reality is, that this is stuff that's out there. So,
It's true.
yeah, yeah. So I am
Mhm.
really encouraged and at the same time enlightened by, some of the things that you brought in. I am so thankful that you were
Thank you,
able to bring
Bonnie.
in some of these things that we hadn't discussed before, because you're able to come from a different angle, both professionally and having come through something yourself. So I am very encouraged by that. I'm sure that my listeners will be very happy. The women will be very happy to hear this extra uh, tidbits that they didn't get before. So, um, the other thing that I wanted to ask you was, I asked you whether or not there was that you were able to trust again, but also how were you able to? Were you held back? Do you feel like you were held back? And then by going through the situation, and how were you able to jump back into your work and move forward, or did you just work through it anyway, to stay in the work the whole time? Did you stay in work all the whole time,
I
or?
was never held back.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. I
Okay.
was never held back. I kept going forward. I kept doing my work, and of course, I am a counselor, so
Mm-hmm.
I was just able to just keep going forward and work with my clients and give them the care and the professional service that they needed. Um, no, I don't feel like I was held back. I just felt more tenacious to go forward and to try to just get
Yes.
out of that dark space.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And I have to
yeah.
say that,
So
having seen you work and being privy to some of the work you've done, you have always been tenacious and get the results that are needed. So I am, thankful for that. And I'm sure so many other women are thankful for what you brought forth. So this is Victoria White. She has shared her story with
thank
us
you,
and given
Bonnie.
us some awesome tidbits. I just want to remind women who are in a situation that there is a domestic violence hotline number that they can call 1-800-799-SAFE 7233. And I think Victoria also has, do you have a number that you want to give if people, are you still doing, I don't know if you're doing online counseling, but there are,
Absolutely,
yeah, please
absolutely.
give your
And I
online
can give
counseling
you,
number.
yes, it's 908-998-3176, or you can also call 908-456-2024. I also have a Calendly address that I will give to Bonnie, and you can
Okay,
even you can set up an appointment yourself through my online calendar.
that's
We don't have to
awesome.
wait. We don't even have to have a conversation. You can just go right into my calendar and I will contact you. Just put your phone number, your name, your phone number, your email address, and I will get right back to you. Yes.
O-
So
Okay,
more
so
than happy to help.
awesome, awesome, awesome. The amazing Victoria White. Thank you so much for sharing this
Thank you,
information
Bonnie.
with our women,
My
and
pleasure. My
we are
pleasure.
looking forward to hearing from you again when we have any questions, or if anybody sends me anything, I will certainly send them over to you. So thank you very much. Have a blessed day, and we are looking
You
forward
too,
to
Bonnie.
hearing more from you. All right. Bye, everyone. God bless.
Bye, everyone. God bless.